In the last video, we were looking at insurance companies that made the highest investment income in 2017. We also drew a conclusion that they also tended to make the highest profit in the insurance industry. And in today's video, we want to delve a little bit deeper and understand what decisions do they make to make that kind of investment income. So please join me as we look at the asset allocation of insurance companies. My name is Pius Muchiri Mugo, the Managing Director of Nabo Capital, and you're watching Invest in Africa. Since 2011, I've been a very close follower of the insurance sector, and I pay particular attention on the investment income line. And when I started following this particular industry, one of the things that really stood out for me is that Jubilee has always tended to generate the most strong, stable investment income. And Britam has always tended to generate high but very volatile investment income. And all the rest tend to fall there in between. So we want to look at what happened in 2017 and how are these particular insurance companies positioned for the future. So let's start by looking at how the insurance industry has made strategic asset allocations. Where do they put money when we pay them premiums? And if you look at, this is 2017 and that's 2011, and you see this gray strip is the most dominant. And this gray strip indicates that insurance companies tend to allocate the highest portion of their portfolios to government securities. The second place that they put their money is in this dark blue strip, which is investment properties. And you'll see 16% was allocated to or has been allocated to investment properties, and it has been ranging between 14.5 to 16 to about 17.6, actually 18.3 is the highest. So the next place where insurance companies like to place money is in equities, and you'll see this light blue strip. We started in 2011 at about 18.4%, and it has tended to shrink until in 2017 it was at about 11.2%. What else here can I highlight? So placement in the insurance, by its very nature, it's a highly liquid sector, and therefore they tend to place quite a bit of money in placement with banks. And you can see from 2011 they were at about 17.1. 2017 they are now standing at about 8.2, which is the lowest, which means this is the most aggressive asset allocation as an industry that I've ever seen. Let's move to individual companies, and we've isolated what we would consider to be the top insurance companies in Kenya. And I'll start again to the company that we saw generated the highest investment income, and that was Jubilee. So how did Jubilee manage to generate the highest investment income? You will notice quite conspicuously that Jubilee allocated about 60% of their portfolio to government securities. So Jubilee took a bet on government securities, and this is probably what paid off most. So they got it right there. The second place that we can see, the second allocation that really stands out for me is that Jubilee has the lowest allocation to investment in properties, which is about 7.8%. And investment in properties has been the best performing asset class over the last 5 years on average. But if you look at the most recent years, 2017, 2016, it has really slumped down, and there are no capital gains that we were seeing in the previous years. So Jubilee got it right by allocating the least to investment in properties. What else really stands out for Jubilee? Jubilee allocated only 4.2% to listed equities. And this is where, for me, I would fault Jubilee, because 2017 was a very good year for the equities market. And it is quite clear that they missed out on an opportunity. So my challenge to the Jubilee team is they have done very well to be able to achieve stable, strong investment income year in, year out. The thing that I think you can do now to enhance that is to add a little bit of agility to your portfolio by injecting your more into your equities as and when the markets are favorable, and you can always feel free to shrink it when markets are not favorable. That means you'll be able to enhance your returns going forward. So very, very difficult to improve on what Jubilee is already doing, but there is still some headroom to improve. The second company that stands out for me is Britam. And Britam was able to generate 6 billion shillings in investment income. And how are they able to do that? Their highest allocation was in listed equities, 42.7%. And last year, 2017, was a fantastic year for anybody who was investing in the equities market. So that is really what propelled them to come number 2 in terms of investment income. What else really stands out is their allocation to properties is about 18%. The average return for properties over the last 5 years is 22%. 5% is the rental yield, and 17% is the capital gains. And what we've seen in the most recent years, in the latter years of the 5 years, is that capital gain has disappeared. And therefore, you end up, anybody who was allocated to investment in properties then their yield was dragged by that. And the question is, going forward, what do we foresee? Is the real estate likely to continue with the rapid rise in prices? In my own personal opinion, I think those days are behind us. Now we're going to just see, general, a very slow increase in prices, if at all. We've had a period of, market exuberance in the real estate, and I think that period is well behind us. We have quite a number of properties that have been put out there, and they're still waiting to be rented. So we are likely to see some bit of stagnation for a couple of years before we pick up pace again. So with 18% allocation to properties, it's highly illiquid, then I would generally say that Britam, probably this is one of the things that really ate into their investment income, or rather compromised the pace at which they could have built up the investment income. The other thing I can point out on Britam is their exposure to government securities is just about 21%. I personally feel for an insurance company, and given what we have seen in Jubilee, I think they are underweight, and if they would up their investment in government securities by selling a little bit of the equities where I feel they're overexposed, I think they would be able to get a little bit of more stable income. And generally, with Britam, what we have seen is that investment income is very good in 1 year, and in the following year, it tends to slump when the markets are down. And that is the big challenge to the management team and to the investment team. How can they stabilize their investment income and make it strong and stable and predictable? By allocating more to government securities and reducing their exposure to listed equities. Let's move to the third insurance company that is of interest. It's UAP Insurance, or UAP All Mutual as they call it today. And what really stands out, and I have never seen this before, is that the asset allocation for UAP implies that almost 50% of their portfolio has been committed to investment in properties. And that means that you have a highly illiquid balance sheet, and also you have another concern: if the real estate sector is going to continue experiencing the stagnation or slowness that we have been experiencing the last 1 or 2 years, then it really compromises on their ability to generate a healthier dose of investment income line. So I see it as an opportunity for Old Mutual, UAP Old Mutual. How can they make this to be a more liquid balance sheet? By moving some of the money upwards to other asset classes. And one asset class that is a favorite, and again learning from Jubilee, is the government securities, which is strong, stable, and high-yielding asset class. The allocation to listed equities was 7.2%. 7.2% in a rising market. Again, you can see they were underweight in a market that was rising. They missed an opportunity to, mobilize more or grow their portfolio when the market conditions were conducive. So, and probably this is explained by the high allocation to properties, because you have a very rigid portfolio. It takes a long time. It takes about 239 days on average to dispose of a property. So they are not able to respond to market conditions as they change, and therefore they end up with a low allocation to listed securities. So that's what really stands out for the UAP. I think the challenge is how to turn this balance sheet into a little bit more of a liquid balance sheet that can respond to market conditions. Which other company stands out is CIC. CIC Insurance. It is quite interesting how CIC Insurance is almost a 30-30-30 allocation between investment in properties, investment in placements, and investment in government securities. Almost a very equal distribution. And what really stands out for me is just the high allocation to placements. They closed the year with about 27.4% placed with banks. These are low yielding asset class, and to commit 27% just means that they were not able to maximize on the opportunity that they had, or unless they received quite a bit of money towards the end of the year. Going forward, I would say please, reduce your exposure to placement in banks. Another thing that stands out for me is their allocation to investment in properties. 30% of their portfolio is allocated to properties. Again, highly liquid, and with their doubts whether it is going to replicate the success that we have seen in the past. So to make this balance sheet or this portfolio to yield a little bit more, there might be need to shift a little bit of the value that is in real estate and take it up to listed equities and government securities, and you'll be able to optimize on the investment income line. I think they really got it right around government securities, 32% thereabout, and there is room to increase that, but still a very healthy allocation to government securities. Where I think they probably did not get it right is their investment in listed equities. 5.6% exposure to listed equities when they were rising. I think that they could have done better, and they could have really added a lot more financial muscle to this particular portfolio if they had allocated to listed securities. I think the only other one that I can talk about is ICEA Lion. ICA Lion, very, very interesting allocation there. Very close, almost like Jubilee in terms of their views on government securities. They had 54% in government securities, and that must have worked out very well for them. Well done for that. Where the exposure to real estate or investment properties, 29%, just shy of 30%. Again, I feel it's a little bit on the high side. I think going forward, that's an area they should look at as an opportunity to improve on their allocation. The allocation to listed securities, 11.3. Again, I think I would consider that to be underweight, and they could have done better. And probably a lot of money was tied in properties, and that is what compromised the allocation into equities. Sanlam, 36% allocation to government securities, 38% allocation to listed securities. This was a good allocation in listed equities last year, but again, that exposes them to a little bit of volatility, so they should take care this year, and I hope they have done some adjustments, because it's a bit more of a challenging year than it was last year to be able to continue preserving their strong, stable investment income base. Government securities, there is room to improve on that, and I think the allocation to investment in properties, I really cannot fault them. It's fantastic at 12.3%. Yeah, so this asset allocation is really what really determines how an insurance company is going to generate investment income going forward. And if you look at it, if it continues to look the way it is, then my bet would be around Jubilee to come out tops next year. There you have it. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed that conversation. And this, again, are my personal opinions. If you have any different opinion, please feel free to engage me, and we'll have a nice conversation. My name is Pius Muchiri Mugo, the Managing Director of Nabo Capital, and you're watching Invest in Africa.